Hello, everybody. This is Max Farrow from DexFXMarkets.com. In this video, we're going to talk about the strategies, what we like to call the numbers. And let's get started. Before we get physically into the strategies and what we're going to be doing, I want you all to know that there's so many things you can learn, so little time to do it in. Another process is that more is not better. I think that's really the only way I could put it up. More is not better. It does, the more things you put onto a chart, the more things that you have, validating certain things does not make the system better. In fact, you can have analysis paralysis. There has to be a setup that you create to and that you commit to and work that setup. That's what it really does come down to. And how do you do that? You have to demo to find your best. Don't go in there live. Go, I already know how to use Nadex, or I already know how to use TradingView. It's not about you learning just how to use the tools. It's about how to learn you use the tools, the systems, the programs, and your mentality at the same time. And my last little advice here is to learn how to make it easy. We call it the clock on the wall method. Learning how to take all that analysis and apply yourself just some standard small levels to work with and work the numbers. Speaking of numbers, we talk about this algorithm all the time that I came with many years ago, consistency plus volume equals gold, CVG. How do you get to consistency? Because that's the big thing, right? You can't add volume of contracts to your system and to get to your goal until you have consistency. Then you're just gambling. Okay, but how do you get to consistency? Well, you have to use P&D. And what is that? Patience and discipline. That's that whole demo thing, learning how to trade with the process. There isn't much of a difference between live and demo money, then it's about the mentality of it. Legally, Nadex has to make both their systems just as easy to work with. There may be some nuances, of course, and some availability of contracts, but for the most part, they're exactly the same. We have proven this time and time again. So in order to get to consistency, you have to have patience and discipline. Patience being waiting for the right thing to happen, and discipline doing the right thing when it does happen will equal that consistency. Once you have that, which takes a couple of weeks, you will then be able to apply volume to get to your goal. All right, let's talk about some of the strategies that are here in front of you. Again, we're keeping it very simple. The main strategies here are a main 1 hour trading time, right? Where the trading time over on Nadex starts at a particular hour and ends 1 hour later. So you put a working order on at the top of the hour, and within that hour, it will either fill or not fill, but the expiry rate will be at that 1 hour time. The 2 hour trade is just that, a 2 hour trade that you start at the top of 1 hour, and 2 hours later, it will expire. Now, the 5 minute is also, it starts at the top of a 5 minute period and ends 5 minutes later. Whew. I am all for just the 1 hour trading. Just pick one. Just go with it. If you're not sure, then yeah, you can float in between to see what floats your boat. But let me tell you, the 1 hour trade seems to be just that perfect time for me. I don't have to wait too long. I don't have to anticipate too much stuff. I'm just there to trade for that 1 hour or 2 hour period, and I'm done. The 2 hour one is a little bit longer in the tooth. It needs a little bit more work and more time to learn because it's a little bit longer in between each time. So you get to learn a little bit about the pair. This is why I suggest a 1 hour trade system. Back in the day, we used to say, everybody, learn how to trade, learning how to use Nadex on a 5 minute system because you'll get a lot of trades under your belt, but don't trade your live money with it. I still say that today. Okay. But also, this could kind of send you down a rabbit hole too. So you got to be very careful. As far as the special note on indices and commodities, these things takes a long time to work because commodities can be influxed with governmental issues and all that stuff. Forex can also be messed with governments and all that kind of stuff, but standard news and all that, it takes a lot. There's a lot of information that happens on the Forex level, where in indices and commodities, there's a lot that can happen too, but it still seems to be more fickle than Forex. So now, once we pick, and I'm going to choose the 1 hour strategy for you just right now, just start with that, okay? There's a few sub strategies that are in there, which means what we call the first over or under, and all in. And I'm going to go over to a chart to kind of show you what that is now. Okay, so here we are over on our Dex Atomic TradingView portal system that we have created. Now, there are three main elements that you probably have already learned about here within our system. There's the moving average, There's a support and resistance areas, as you can kind of see with all the different lines. And under some of the candles and over some of the candles, there is an arrow that points in a direction. The first strategy that we use is called first over under. That means when the price travels above the moving average, a green arrow for a buy, the very first one, is what we call the golden signal. This is where we then set up our validation box and see how everything works. And we'll talk about the box here in a moment. It's also true to be the very first one, that where the price is below the moving average and an arrow appears. We then use a validation box to find our level. This first over-under strategy yields out a lot less trades, but with a higher rate of success. So the numbers kind of work out for you. The next method we'll refer to is the over-under strategy. You would only go with the pairs that have that are under the MA with a red signal, okay? And this over-under strategy, so if it's a red signal underneath, you would go with that one, you could go with that one, but you wouldn't go with this one. This would be a negation trade, okay? So we would go with only the ones that are above or below within a direction of the moving average. So this one being the first over would still be okay. If you got to this one, it would be the second over, third over, fourth over. Now remember, the pairs are finally going to exhaust, so keep an eye on that process. And we'll talk about that more in the actual strategy lesson for that particular one. The last one is all in, where you learn how to use deviational processes from the signal using the gain box method on which level to take. Okay, so there is a lot to learn with each one, but you'll pick them up pretty quickly. Okay, just as a recap, some of the tools that we use are support and resistance. We're going to be using the box validation that you've seen in the one setup video with the gain box method. And this also will help you set up your level statement on Nadex, keeping in mind that the more higher risk stuff, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. Let's talk about some of the numbers. We're taking a statement price over on Nadex. When it's a sell, it's 45. When it's a buy, it's 55. We'll refer to this as the 45-55 method. Now, in this strategy of numbers, this is a strategy within itself. You could actually take ones for a risk of $25 or $55 or $80, whatever it would be. It all depends on how well the strategy works. If the strategy works really well, in order for you to make money, you have to have a strategy that at least produces at 60% to make money at this level, or 56% to do well. Our strategies work at 60-something plus percent, so 63 and above, okay? But in this particular case, we're talking about taking a contract. When we win 45. When we lose 55. This is really close to a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio, and we'll talk about risk to reward later on as well. Our low risk trade values fill about 40% of the time. That means when we put a working order on over at Nadex for our low risk, which we'll show you in those videos, you're going to fill only about 40% of the time. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but for those that actually do very well in this, that's just plenty. They only need to trade 1 or 2 times a day, or fill between 1 or 2 times a day. The reason why is because they're making, when they have their trades and they're applying the proper volume to it, they're making $180 to $200 to $300, $400, $500 a day for every trade that they do. So they only need 1 or 2 trades each day to actually make that work. You don't have to trade a whole bunch to make a lot of money. Now, our higher risk trades fill about 80% of the time, but they have a lower rate of success. This is because it's a little higher risk and it's a little closer to the statement of the open price of the candle. So when those happen, you're only going to win about 63% of them, but you're going to fill a lot more. And because we're trading at 45-55 method, the ratio of the numbers work out really well. Now, just remember, the lower risk, more working orders, less fill, but higher success. The higher risk levels, more trades, less wins, but still we come out ahead if it's done right. Now, either depends on your mentality. Each takes time and a learning process. You have to test which way you like, and you got to have some time to get it done. Now, remember, you're going to be demoing now to see if the system works, right? But that's not true. You don't demo to see if the system works. We know it does. You demo to see if you can work the system. Now, demo the pairs, the timing, and the level to get in, over, under. You're going to test this for a few weeks to see what fits and what's better. Then we can go all in and work very hard to create a stable, consistent solution to find your idea of success. This is one of the most important values of getting and set up and learning how to trade. Even if you're familiar with Nadex, even if you're familiar with all the tools, it just may happen to get you there quicker. But all that experience doesn't mean anything if you don't apply the proper mentality. Now, that's all I have for you in this video. We'll break down all the different levels of strategies over the next couple of days in training. But for now, that's basically it. I'm Max Farrow. This has been DexFXMarkets.com, Dex Atomic Trading View System, and we'll see you next time. And as always, trade well.